if I looked at the search term like women's pink rubber coated insulated water bottle, like that's my exact product. Now, the more specific you get to the product, the more specific the search is, the lower your search volume is going to be. So what we always look to do on product launches is like we try and find the intersection between good search volume, and good to us is like maybe even a couple thousand depending on the budget, that also have really good relevancy to the product. Because what you're trying to do is you want to get in front of your exact shoppers. So example would be insulated water bottle is going to be really expensive and not super specific to my product. Like it's kind of specific, but not really specific. I'm trying to say like, okay, where can I start getting super specific to my product, but it's going to have enough search volume that I can get the sales volume that I need. So I would focus more on that versus that I would looking at only search volume. A bit of a technical answer here is we don't quote move them, meaning we're not going to pause the existing keywords. We're simply going to launch them in another match type. Again, make sure to keep the bids lower. Amazon actually, if you read their recommendations, they recommend keeping bids lower on broad and phrase match, even lower than the exact match. When we would launch those is honestly really dependent on performance of the account and availability of the budget. So if you launch a keyword in exact phrase and broad, so you have 50 keywords, right? And you launch them in exact phrase and broad, you technically have, 150 keywords that you've launched. And the potential of broad and phrase to spend could be quite high. So again, you just want to make sure it makes sense. It seems super simplistic, but if you are in a phase where you're struggling to control total ACoS and ACoS, to fix those two numbers, it really means that you have to lower down your ad spend with ideally little to no impact of the total sales or the ad sales in the case of ACoS. If you introduce a whole, again, those 50 keywords in exact phrase and broad, and those you probably need to test and optimize the bids, etc., you're introducing a lot of additional ad spend into the account. So you do want to be aware of that and be careful with that. So that's kind of a benchmark that we use. But overall, I would say, I don't know if I would have like a certain time frame or a frame which I would hold back on. It really is dependent on the performance of the account. Another good question, which best bid strategy for phrase and exacts when you move? So again, we don't really move them. We would simply launch them in addition. We like to separate them by campaign as well. I think it gives us a little bit more control over, say, budgets for things. Now, as far as the bidding strategy, we're a super huge fan of using mainly dynamic down only. If it is a keyword that we want to ensure that we get impressions for, so for our launch keywords, for our main keywords, for anything we're trying to be aggressive with, we prefer a fixed bidding strategy. It's still going to be the same. It's still going to be pick highly relevant keywords. One other tip is pick keywords that fit within the budget of the account that you're launching. So for instance, if I have a couple $100 a day budget versus $50 a day budget, those launches are actually going to look a little bit different because I can't afford that many clicks on a $50 a day budget. Or if I had, a couple $100 or $1,000, I have a lot more room for clicks. So actually, you want budgets to play into your launch strategy. The other thing that you want to keep in mind, do not expect profitability on launch. This is a huge one. There's a lot of people that try and pull back and knee-jerk for profitability right out of the gate. That is not going to happen. The reason why it's not going to happen, and I'll tell you the numbers behind the numbers, is that ACoS is just going to be high on your product launches, and that is a function of two things. One, the aggressive cost per click you have to set to be able to get visibility in the beginning, and two, how low your product conversion rate is going to be, especially if you're launching without reviews. Those two things, once you start to be able to bring your cost per clicks down because you gain momentum or you're optimizing your bids, and then two, once your product conversion rate starts to increase because you're getting those reviews, maybe you're optimizing your listing a little bit more because you've learned more about your target market, that is going to help bring down your target ACoS. So those things, again, conversion rates are going to be low, high cost per click. That's actually like the nuts and bolts of why your ads are not profitable, and it's almost unreasonable to expect profitability in the beginning. And that's actually why, if you've ever had a product where you're like, no matter what I do, I cannot seem to bring the ACoS down, I'm struggling here, it's a function of that your conversion rate is remaining low and it's not improving, and your cost per clicks are remaining high and you're not able to improve them due to the market or something else. So again, I would still say pick highly relevant keywords, Also, make sure that whatever keywords that you have fits within your budget. Launch them. Aggressive, sponsored product, exact match, potentially sponsored brand video, exact match if you have the creative. Double down on that for a couple weeks and then start expanding from there. Hello, and welcome back to another very, very special edition of Ask Junglr. So this is a show that we do every single week, pretty much rain or shine. So today is Thursday, is the second day of January. So this is the very first Ask Junglr of 2025. So the goal of this channel is to help you all run more effective Amazon advertising that helps you reach your goals. So what are your goals for 2025? I would love to know. Feel free to drop those in the comments. So the format of this, if this is your first time joining in, you can use the comment section on whatever streaming platform you are listening on to ask your Amazon advertising questions. We will pull them up and get those going for you. Already seeing some questions in the chat. Good luck for 2025 to you all. Absolutely. There are so many exciting things coming up in 2025. And with this, again, the very first episode, we are joined by a very, very special guest who I'm really, really excited. She has been a good friend for, I don't remember how long, but it feels like a very, very long time. And we've jammed back and forth on Amazon advertising, and I'm really excited to get her perspective on Amazon advertising, because as we've gone back and forth on questions, we're very much on the same wavelength when it comes to really specific and tailored strategies and also getting super in the weeds and in the data. So with that, I'm really, really excited to bring Noemi Bolojan, I believe. My brain short-circuited, but she is the co-founder of ScaleWave. So ScaleWave is a Amazon advertising agency, correct?
Correct. And you pronounced right my last name as well. So thank you.
I did.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's an absolute blast. I wasn't kidding. I just posted earlier on LinkedIn that you are one of my role models. So this is an absolute thrill, and I'm stoked to be on the show.
I knew we were talking just before we hit replay. Like, there's a lot of similarities in what we're doing. We're like, we're both really in the weeds in Amazon advertising. We both co-founder along with our husband. We kind of have like the similar roles where we're like the PPC geeks down in the weeds, and they're the ones that are keeping us sane in big pictures. So I'm really excited. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, super much looking forward. And I am so excited also that as you were mentioning, today is January 2nd, and there's already a lot of questions in the chat. So I'm so much looking forward into answering them. It's amazing. Also, like, kudos to you, like, job amazingly done. There's also a comment saying that you made a lot of difference and you taught so many advertisers in 2024. Job well done. Keep up the good job.
Yeah, no, I guess we started this, I want to say it was like mid 2024. I was like, you know what, let's just hit record. Let's go live every single week. Let's ask the people their Amazon ad questions and get some answers. So that's what I'm personally going to be focusing on in 2025, is really tapping into the knowledge base that I have with the team. I've already started that in the end of 2024, like just really getting in there and be like, all right, what are we doing for this? What are we doing for that? Just really being sort of the connector piece between like their expertise, because I have a whole team behind me that's like geeking out, super in the weeds. You think I'm super technical in the weeds? Like, even more so than that, I can say I have smarter people than I when it comes to Amazon advertising at this point. So my goal is to like tap into that more and like disseminate that expertise on podcasts like this, or, you know, just through content or whatever we're doing, which is super, super exciting. So with that, again, context, if you have any Amazon advertising questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. A lot of people saying their goal is to get closer to 7 figures and start establishing PPC campaigns at EU marketplaces. That's really, a lot of broadening out, hopefully a lot of growth. We have a whole new year ahead of us. But with that, well, we're sort of like waiting for some Amazon advertising particular questions. Gosh, sometimes it's hard to remember what happened last year. So I thought it'd be fun to like start off this, maybe just overall trends or updates that we saw in 2024, and then Maybe we can even get into some speculations of 2025.
All right, sounds great. So on the speculation side, I'm not very much into it because I can speculate, but like Amazon is still the king and it's going to decide what's what. Some things that are PPC yet not PPC related. I'm seeing Amazon really into AI. They are figuring out Rufus. They are figuring out um, title optimization. They are figuring out all the nitty gritty that you might think is not PPC related. However, it's like super closely tied with PPC, as we were just checking a few minutes before starting the recording. Even the title, if for example you're running ads for a specific keyword that is already in your title, and if Amazon just decides to change your title right on spot, that's going to have a high impact on your ranking, and then you might think it's a PPC issue, when in fact it's an SEO issue. So all those things I'm seeing right now on Amazon, and they are trying new things. They also worked a lot on their image generation software. In still beta, not fond of it, but like kudos, job well done that they are like on top of it at least. Those are the things that I'm seeing right now that might be the not obvious, but they are having a high impact on whatever it's also happening on the PPC end. How about you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, it's been, I'm trying to think back over like everything that happened. It's like some stuff in the beginning of the year I'm sure was like groundbreaking then, and we've like completely forgot about it because it's like a mile a minute updates, it feels like. But I would say that that's correct. I think the more I dig into, now that I have time to just really actually trying to go through even just like white papers and a lot of things and a lot of like really good information, and some really good friends of mine like Brian Johnson's doing some really interesting stuff with like big data analysis and trying to identify, like what actually holds ranking on Amazon. The stronger my belief is that our core thesis that we started out with, gosh, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago at this point, was go after relevancy and focus on conversions and double down on that from an advertising perspective. I think the more competitive it gets out there and the more I just see like, other brighter minds than me who are really just working to solve the rank, thing is doubling and tripling down on that thesis and finding ways to get more reactive and to get better at those things. So that's going to be another focus of ours, is like how do we support brands in making sure that they're kind of ticking all those boxes. And I agree with you on Rufus. I was so excited for Rufus, to be honest, and I think it's like anything, when it starts out, it's like not that great. Probably, I don't want to say horrible example, but like a illustration of why like it doesn't really quite get very nuancy context, which I think AI will get there. Not quite yet. Unfortunately, my grandpa has recently gone into hospice, and so I was trying to figure out, it's like Christmas gifts, like what does one get? And so I asked Rufus, and it told me I should give him a get well soon basket. Like, I don't think you quite get the nuances. It's a little bit of a dark humor, but I'm like, I think you missed the mark a little bit. So I have high hopes. It's like with a lot of AI things, it's like I have high hopes for the future. I think the future is wild and exciting and coming at us at an even more rapid pace than we ever thought possible. But it's not quite there yet. It'll take time. It'll take a lot of smart people working on it. I don't know. Do you have anything in particular you're focusing in on 2025?
Personal business, PPC wise, so I can give you a better answer.
Anything in general, whatever you feel like digging into.
Oh, got it. Yeah, so personally, I just like what I want to do, especially this quarter, is to sit down and look into the like look back to whatever has happened last year and then see how do those strategies are still applicable to whatever is like this quarter, next quarter, and so on. I believe something that we are often missing is we are not zooming out frequently enough for clarity. So therefore, we are going to get this firefighting mindset that whatever the brand's or client's goal it is, it's going to become our goal right away without even stopping, zooming out and questioning if that is something that we should be addressing right away, you know? So especially for this quarter, what I want to do even more, like also helping the team gain the skill set of maybe it could be a good request from the client's end. Maybe it could be a good goal. Maybe it could be a good common goal and so on. Maybe it's just the client's goal and then we are going to redirect them. Okay, this is the right, or this should be the right way for us to tackle this issue. But really gaining the skill set of zooming out for clarity to really assure that everything what we're doing is rather than reactive, it's going to be proactive. I feel that that is something with all the Amazon fees going up, or like profit margins shrinking, you know, ads are going up, everything is going up, and it's seemingly like brands barely have any profit margin, you know, which means that if they don't have profit margin, they cannot pay us either, you know, as agencies. So I think that is really top of mind for me right now for this quarter, ensuring that we have a system in place that is going to be always double checking on, are we zooming out for clarity? Are we still addressing the same question that we supposed to be addressing? Because firefighting mode is something that we should be avoiding, but firefighting mode is something that I'm seeing for the past 5 years continuously by talking to Amazon brands, by being by selling on the platform, you know. So that is something that is really top of mind for me. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm back in the messiness of it. In the end of 2024, I so focused on trying to put together systems that I ended up losing part of the spark that made what we did so special. So what I'm doing, at least in the next 2 to 3 months, I'm looking back at what we were doing well, which was a lot of team conversations. It was just a lot of people connections and disseminating information, and I'm sort of seeing myself as almost like the chief feedback officer or the hub and connection point. And I had resisted that or tried to run away from that for a little while because I felt like, well, it's really time intensive and it's really labor intensive and it requires a lot of myself to be able to do that. And I thought, well, I need to get past that. That's not really sustainable. What I came to realize is that for me, at least for now, that is sustainable. And so I'm jumping back onto client calls. I'm jumping back into a lot of things that I'd gotten away from. And I'm not going to not try and create systems because I think with systems comes a lot of clarity. It's sometimes if you don't have any sort of system or any sort of roadmap, you end up doing a lot of rework and like doing things over again. You almost feels like you're starting from scratch every single time. But that being said, my goal right now is just to jump back into the fray and stop worrying so much about the systems. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back into the messiness. And then what I've found to be easiest for me is to do something and recognize something that works and say, okay, let's just keep doing that. And then after I've recognized something that works, after I've practiced a little while, then look back and say, okay, what are the steps that led us here? And we'll build a system around that. And instead of some things that I've tried that haven't worked, at least for me, haven't served me well. I think other people maybe be able to do this, but it's like, whenever I say like, oh, I need a system top to bottom, which is true. You need, you know, something, and we have the foundations there. So it's not like we're completely running, like scrambling everywhere. Like we have like the checklist and the things that we go through, but saying like, I need an overall system for me has wasted way too much time, where now what I'm trying to get back to is just step into the fray of it and say, okay, where can there be a system that will serve us instead of us trying to serve and figure out a system because that's what everybody tells you what you need to do. Unfortunately, what happened, I actually made a post about it, I think yesterday. I had a lot of things that really, really worked in the beginning of 2004 and that simplified everything and were amazing. Unfortunately, what that ended up doing is made me doubt myself a little bit. And like, oh my gosh, if somebody else had a better way to do this, I should just follow somebody else's way. And then I swung the pendulum way too far and lost my mojo and ended up getting like really dissatisfied with a lot of things. And then, so I'm trying to go back to what I was doing before, hopefully wiser, with a little bit more perspective and say like, okay, I can trust myself. I can trust my instincts. And then just try and, I have other people's advice serve me rather than making it question my own perspective on things. So it's a little bit about getting back to center for me in 2025. We'll see how that goes.
Bro, good job, well done, love it. And I believe that we should also be making separate episode only about this, because most of the time what I hear you saying is just like, we are great technicians, right? Because we know our stuff. You know PPC, I know PPC. But then it comes down to, all right, so we are solopreneurs. How do we become really operation? How do we help others also grow? How do we this is how you should do it. This is how you should be training people, So I'm seeing so many things that while you were talking, I'm seeing myself in so many of those things, just because I believe that training your team is also a skill set that you're not going to have just because you're so darn good at doing it. It's like it takes you 1 minute to fix it, and it takes 2 hours to explain to someone how to fix it, So I love that, and thank you for your transparency. I believe that is something that most of the time most entrepreneurs are struggling with, especially if you're starting your agency, which is not only you, but it's going to grow as well. It's a different mindset, and we should shift to that mindset, because otherwise it's really not scalable, So while systems are great, figure out how to teach, and then that is going to become the next step. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, no, that's great. So we are getting St. Amazon ad questions. I promise you, we will get to your questions. So what I'll do is I'll pull them up on screen, and then we'll do our best to get the answer. So some questions, yes. As we shift into Q1, unless you have a lot of new year, new me products, things have probably slowed down from Q4 already. And so this first question is, when shopping season slows down in December, so we're very much in the thick of that right now, but data is not updated fast, and optimizing is done on a weekly basis. Should we touch PPC on a daily basis or the first 2 weeks of January? So I guess the question, it seems to be as things slow down, how do you shift gears into slowing things down as we enter Q1? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Sure thing. So to not only preach, but also practice what I am talking about, zooming out for clarity. The first thing, I believe that here, while this is a super specific question, this question already assumes that you had in December high amount of sales, and in January you have low amount of sales. Something very quick and important to mention is that this is the meat that it should be all the time. I'm sure also in your end, Elizabeth, you've seen this, as we are seeing on our end. There are certain products that it's going to have that high season in December. There are some products that's just it's just plateauing, just because it's not really seasonality for that. But in this case, so I think that it's important to note also bid optimization. When would you optimize bids, and what are your goals? Because, for example, in this scenario, if we have a product that by this comment is saying that it went really well in the month of December, but right now is slowing down, first thing we would look into, is there a search volume issue? So does the keyword has a lower search volume right now versus last month? Because based on that, no matter what you are going to do, if the search volume it decreased, if the trend decreased, based on that, it's you can push more PPC, you can spend more, but it's not going to be effective in that sense. Second thing that we would look into, data is not updated fast. What means fast here? If you're going to look into a weekly basis optimization, what we love actually to do is look at the daily, weekly, and monthly level, especially at the beginning of each month, because that is going to give us the most accurate data. If we're going to look 1 day or 2 day, or if we have the attribution window available and we're looking 2 days or 3 days ago, that data might mislead you versus 7 days ago versus a month ago. So here what I would suggest, if right now the PPC is not crazy, like the ACOS from, let's say, 20%, it's not piling up to 100%, I should not worry about optimization just yet. If the ACOS is 100% and like there's a lot of clicks there happening, but like no conversion, we would look into, did anything changed on the product level? So did we made a lot of sales? Did we got a lot of negative reviews? And based on that, people right now are clicking within our listing and there's no conversion there. So I would look more into the not only optimization, but like understanding, troubleshooting what caused whatever is happening right now. Because based on that, I love your answers, Elizabeth. Depends. It really depends on the comments that you're going to give here. But basically, this is the first thing that I would look into, like what happened right now in January that did not happen in December. Does it make sense?
Yeah. I'd say that's exactly the way that we would approach it as well. It's like when things are good, what was happening? Now that things have shifted, what was the data point change? Is there higher spend? Is it that conversion rates went down? All of the above. You want to know what's changing and why. Because I believe what you were alluding to is there is a frame in which you might say like over optimized because things went down and like conversion rate isn't as high, and you don't want to like hurt your rankings and things. You do need to be careful about that. The other thing that I would say is, if you're saying the data is not updated fast, I'm assuming that means you're not getting as many clicks, and so there's less information to make decisions on. That would be my assumption. So if that's the case, maybe weekly optimization. However, we optimize multiple times a week. So I would say you might want to increase your optimization cadence. And then echoing what Noemi was saying, you definitely want to make sure that, you're looking at what has happened historically for this keyword. So again, you don't over optimize, but you also in these timeframes want to make sure that whatever data you're making decisions off of does not include that time frame, like peak Q4 in the middle of December when everything was great, because what will happen is you'll end up like increasing bids when you might end up having to decrease bids. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, of course, by the way, if we touch on anything throughout this that anyone has follow-up questions on, feel free to pull those up. Otherwise, we'll we do have a question about Rufus and getting brands to the top of that. That one I don't know. Do you have any perspective on that one?
I actually might have. And here, this is not a PPC answer though. What I've seen so far, like in your situation, actually the get well soon was a very bad match. In my case, what I've seen actually, we were looking for what? Actually, new year, new you, dietary supplements and so on and so forth. Actually, my husband was looking yesterday or 2 days ago for these pill containers, for supplements. And we were looking for finding something that is large, because we have like these big supplements, and that like at least 5 of them, And what I noticed is actually Rufus is going to help find whatever is in the image that you're showing it, like showcasing it, because we were asking Rufus to how many pills would this fit, because we were thinking the big fish oil, what else we take, like multivitamin, so on and so forth. So we were thinking like at least this much big, and actually Rufus, by asking Rufus pulled from the images, the product pictures, it pulled up an image that contained exactly that information, So I do believe that right now, while we can speculate on how does it help, how it doesn't help, and it might be a hit or miss, if your images are in a such way optimized that whenever someone would ask a highly relevant question to your product and your images are showcasing that, it's definitely going to help you with that. But again, it comes down to knowing to ask the right question and then like showcasing during the customer journey in the product images, whatever they would get if they're going to buy their product.
That's very, very helpful information. Yeah, as we like continue to use Rufus and continue to like try and understand how it's making decisions, I think we'll come up with more and more insights there. But that was very helpful. So Jessica, we hope that was helpful for you. Another one, have you gotten into day parting at all? Because we have tested it. There's like always a question, is this helpful or not?
To be super honest, whenever it comes down to day parting, or let's zoom out for clarity, whenever it comes down to something that is new and everyone is raving about, I would test whatever someone else already tried it. And actually, I talked to so many people in our industry who are knowledgeable and who are trustworthy. And what they've seen on their end is like maybe a 1 to 5% decrease in PPC just because they were using day parting, and maybe for only a few categories. So based on that information, I said, like, you know what, there are so many things to try out. We did not try out with day parting just based on that, But probably for next time, when we have a bigger team, when we have like more brains that it's not mine to think about this, we are going to give it one more shot. How about your take on that?
Yeah, so we have tried it with some limited success. There's a couple ways to do it. So one is going to be pausing and unpausing of things, so just turning it off, turning back on. The second way, which you need to really, and I'll be honest with you, either of these, you want to have software that does it. I have someone ask like, hey, is there any way to do day parting if you don't have software? I'm like, not effectively, because what happens when your VA like turns off everything and they're supposed to turn it back on and like forget, like there's, you make sure you have a software that facilitates it. So the second thing that you can do is adjust the bids. That one needs a little bit more robust software. It's more data intensive to have a software that's going to do that. So not all softwares are going to support. A lot of them just turn it off and turn it on. That being said, I'm always a favor of doing things based on data, specifically your data. And I think Noemi had a great point. As much as a lot of people are talking about day parting, and again, can it be effective? 100% in specific scenarios. Day parting will not fix a poor converting product that is struggling with advertising. It is a additional layer that can help enhance something. It's not going to be a silver bullet. I know, because I completely sympathize. Advertising costs are definitely rising. It's everyone's trying to look for ways to cut costs, ourselves included. So I completely sympathize there. But I do want to preface this, but like, if the data will show you that it will be beneficial for your account, it makes sense to test it. And then even from there, you test, potentially iterate, and then analyze the outcomes. It shouldn't be oh my gosh, this is a silver bullet, let's jump into it. And actually, you can go and pull a report right now that can give you an indication of this. So this is going to be for sponsored product ads. You can pull a campaign report that has hourly data. And from there, you can run a pivot table and just say like, hey, is there an indication that there's a specific hour of the day that works best for my account? Ideally, you're doing this on a product level, and even more ideally than that, you would do it on an individual campaign level, because things are very, very incremental. The problem becomes is that you're just not going to have enough data. Like if you have 1 hour where you only got one click on something, that's not enough to be like, oh, one click and it didn't convert. Like think of it from like a statistical significance. Like, would you ever pause a keyword because you got one click and no orders? No, you would wait for more data to roll into test it. So the same logic needs to be applied to day parting. So you can pull that campaign data and just see, again, is there very obvious distinct patterns? Potentially. Again, you're trying to qualify, is this worth testing on this specific account, is what you're trying to figure out. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, again, that's why we test things, is that if you look at, like, say, when conversions are up for a particular campaign, well, that's actually going to tell you the hour in which the sale was made. But that's not going to tell you, it is very possible, I'm notorious for shopping like this. I add a ton of things to my cart to see like which one I want, and then I'll go back to my cart and maybe delete some, or like, oh, I totally forgot to actually order that, and I'll go purchase it the next day, right? So you have to keep in mind that like the hours of the day that those conversions are happening does not necessarily mean that that's when the click and the add to cart or whatever is happening actually led to the purchase. Now, one thing that we just got access to in the end of 2024, and I'm really excited to see how that's going to shape our strategies in 2025, is access to AMC data. So there is some insights that we can pull out of stuff like that. Again, we're working through what our queries are and what's going to be the most informational. Now, promise you I'm going to like disseminate that information. I'm going to share it with everybody as much as I can as we learn ourselves. But there are some ways you can pull data to sort of see, you know, like when are the clicks happening, when are the purchases, like what is that path to purchase, all those things. That is a very complex. And so what I would say is just pull that campaign report, see if the data indicates that it's worth a test it, see what happens, iterate from there. It's not a silver bullet. It's not really a yes or no answer, unfortunately.
I love your answer, by the way, Elizabeth. And I love the way how you like, I believe something that we are missing and something that even the like questions sometimes are missing is because there's so much FOMO happening. Most of the time we are just so focused on let's do it. But no one is really, or very few people are thinking about how much time and money investment is this going to take, you know? Because probably also on your end is like, yes, I enjoy doing this, but would I do this for 5 hours or would I just like have a better like way of how do I structure these campaigns for this client, you know? So in the same time, I believe that while the question is like, it makes sense why someone would ask because like everyone's talking about it, in the same time, just sit down and does this make sense or not? And I love that actually you also provided on how would people do it and how, which reports, so that is huge. Kudos, job well done. I myself am the save for later type of gal. So.
Yeah, definitely. It's really that. It's saying like, okay, what is the potential impact of this thing? Which again, seeing as we've both tested so many things, that's our goal with the show is to be like, hey, here's what we observed is the potential impact of this, pros or cons, right? Decide what you want to do. This is our perspective, which is why I love bringing guests on like yourself to that. And I know you guys are deep into AI as well. So here's one question. I'd love to get your take on this. Is AI not reliable to let it run influence our PPC decisions?
All right, let's get deep into this question. So AI to run our PPC decisions. What is our PPC decisions? Is it category, like, is it strategy or is it optimization? Or is it, I'm going to use a tool like AdBadger to like just on steroids to put up this data, all the things that I need and so on and so forth. Or even maybe creating a macro that is all still all AI, you know? So I think that it has to do a lot with not sourcing out strategy while highly using AI to perfect whatever is already there. Because stepping back, AI is super, super smart, right? If you know how to ask smart questions. If you don't know how to ask the right questions, AI is going to give you that. So based on also the software that right now are just like going to help you optimize your business, so on and so forth. And this is something that I just strongly agreed with Elizabeth. We would not give out to AI to run our campaigns for us, to optimize our bids for us, and so on and so forth. Especially if we have, this is for ranking, this is to dominate, this is to discover, this is to brand protect, this is like, you know, just like conquer something that I'm going to make more money off just because it's a poorly optimized listing. While I believe the question is great, it's going to be really important to understand what PPC decision, what are we talking about? Because based on that, the answer is going to differ 100% for anything. Yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah. And you see me, if you're watching this, you might be listening to this, but I am vigorously nodding my head in agreement to everything Noemi's saying. I have very strong feelings on AI, and I'm also very bullish on the long-term potential that AI is going to give us. So I completely agree with Noemi. I would not outsource the optimizations of my campaigns to AI. Now, that being said, I have a lot of really fantastic friends and some really smart people who I network with who literally run and are building software that leverages AI to do things. And I think they're very smart, and I am excited for what they are building. I will just say for myself personally, I think you can get the best bang for your buck if you're using sort of like an algorithmic output for the optimizations. Regardless if it is an AI on the background making, doing some calculations, or if it's an algorithm, you definitely want to have human oversight on like what those inputs are entered in, right? So a lot of softwares will say, okay, what's the target A cost? What is this goal? Do you want to be aggressive? And there should always be some sort of inputs into the system. I don't even think, given the long-term future, that we'll ever have a system. And to be honest, I would be very scared of any system where it's like, hey, let AI take over everything completely, make absolutely no decisions, right? I think that would be, I don't really want to live into a world where that is true, to be honest. I prefer to make my own decisions. And I think that's really important when it comes to Amazon advertising. Now, my personal opinion, I have very strong opinions on this, but my personal opinion is that AI's best use case is not actually in things like bid optimization or other decisions like that, because I think there are fantastic algorithms out there. I mean, like, I wrote one that we're using right now for bids that's like served us very well. And what we're able to do with that is getting phenomenal results, and we're also able to tweak it in a way that makes sense for our brands to be able to get very, very incremental with our settings. I don't see AI outpacing that in terms of performance. Now, what I will say AI is fantastic for is it can analyze data at a level and scale that is absolutely is incomprehensible and impossible just given human oversight. So where I see, and honestly, we're working with some AIs right now, and we're working with some people to do just that. So our goal, I think, is to leverage AI to serve up the necessary information and to help us get better at finding and troubleshooting things. I think that's where, to be perfectly honest, a lot of the AI, at least in the Amazon advertising world, has been really focused on, hey, let it optimize things for you. How we're going to be approaching AI, and maybe something will come out that will completely change my mind in the next 3 months. That's entirely possible. AI is moving like at rapid rates. It's insane. It's hard to keep up, right? But where we're going to be working on seeing how can we leverage this further is going to be like, how do we get information fast? Because that's the thing with like vector models and things in AI, like it could literally go through, thousands of research papers and serve you up the one piece of gold nugget information on that footnote of that one research paper and say, oh, this is the information you're looking for, right? The speed to get to that information, astoundingly fast. And so those are the types of things that we're looking to do, is like, how do we get, like, when you're going to make a decision about, so an example was, when we're talking about, does day parting make sense for me? Now that things are rapidly changing in Q1, oh my gosh, sales have gone down. And we're talking about, okay, so here's the decision tree, right? You go through, is it a traffic issue? Is it a conversion rate issue? Which product has gone on? All of those data points are things that you have to go in, you have to pull that information. And yes, can you have a software, which we use extensively, and we have for the past 2 years, to say like, okay, here's all the products, here's the changes across these products on this time frame. All right, so which of these has the biggest impact of the data point that we're looking for? And we have systems to go through down that rabbit hole to find the one data point that serves us up the thing that we need to go about changing. All of that can be done with AI. And it would not be something. So for us, it is not a tool to help us to make the decision for us. I don't think that, again, at some point, maybe the robots take over, right? And we hope they're benevolent. But up until that point comes, I think it's going to be helping us get the necessary information to make the decisions faster. Because our time, if we're at the top of our game, is best spent in making decisions based on relevant data. And so the faster I can get that relevant data, the faster I can make the decisions. And so us as an agency, that's where we're looking to leverage AI this next year. We'll see what happens at the end of it. I'm pretty excited for it, but I don't, to be perfectly honest, as much as I love my friends who are working with AI, love you to death. I don't really see us using like a fully automated system that allows AI to like make all those rapid decisions for us.
Love it.
All right, we got time left. So this is a lot of really specific questions, which I love. So 600 high ticket apparel SKUs and 100 daily PPC budget for all PPC for this client. Good Lord. With 20% ACOS and a 5% tacos goals at present. Should I increase the daily budget or is it risky now to spend? This one has a lot of information, but it's also missing information as well. Maybe I'll kind of tee this up because, to be honest, when you're saying like, should you increase the daily budget? Is it risky now to spend? That really is dependent on what the current performance is, and what the actual goals of the account are. Noemi, I don't know if you want to take a shot at any of this.
I think we can both take a shot to it because like the end goal is not only Fazal is going to become smarter, but also us, like how would we tackle the issue? So right now I would look into like I have a 600 high ticket apparel. Is this a product launch? Is this a 1-year-old product? Is it a 2-year-old? Is this already a mature product? So based on that, it does not matter how much the product costs, but the sheer fact that if you're starting ads right now, today on January 2nd, 2025, it feels so good to say 2025, parentheses closed. Based on that, it's going to be a really different response on whatever we're going to say. With a 20% ACOS and 5% tacos. All right, so 20% ACOS, probably this is the 20% ACOS just because your product price is so high. Let's think it through. So if you have a 5% ACOS tacos goal at present, what's the plan with this product? Do you want to rank for specific keywords? Do you want to get external, like additional traffic from competitors? Where are you advertising at this point? All those are going to be very important questions because right now, should you increase daily budget? Should you not? Is going to depend 100% on the strategy, like strategy of whatever you have right now for the product, and also the phase in which the product is right now. Because if you are in a product launch phase, my answer is going to be 5% tacos goals might not be, maybe 10%, but you're going to get higher ranking based on targeting the right search term, targeting the right keywords, using the right search terms, to retarget them in a new campaign maybe. And then based on that, maybe the 100%, the $100 daily budget, which is around $3,000 per month, it's going to make it work. So really like zooming out and asking all those questions are going to help you, Fazal, ask the right questions. Because as of right now, it's not that you're not asking the right question, but you already have all the context and we don't. And based on whatever we would answer, and I think, yeah, Elizabeth also said, so that's clear. Based on whatever we're answering, if we're saying right now to increase the daily budget and you're going to bleed a lot of money, based on that, you're going to say that we told you to do so when we didn't have enough context. How would you tackle that, Elizabeth?
No, I think that's correct. I'm 100% in agreement with you. Yeah, because what I would break down is, so if you have 600 high ticket apparel SKUs, I'm assuming that means that you have parent ASINs. So my question is like, how many parent ASINs make up that? Because that budget is going to be split across all of those parent ASINs. So let's say, let's go crazy and let's say that you had 100, because it's apparel, you can actually get up to like 100 variations per parent. I'm spitballing it. Well, in that case, if you have $100 and you're going to divide that by 6, that technically only means you have like $16.60. I think I did the math right. Per parent ASIN, which is going to be like,
all right. Sorry for interrupting. So actually Fazal replied and he's saying 100 parents. All right. Wow. Then our answer is total. Yeah. Then it's
so if you have 100 parents, then we're doing math even less. So that's 600. What is that? So it's $100. What did I do? $100 a day. My brain can't math. 100 parents. So that's like what? $1 per. You're not going to get anywhere with that. And so if you want to advertise all of the products, yeah, you're going to need more than that. But what I would recommend doing, it depends on what you have already running. One thing that we've actually done that's worked really, really well is for those accounts, if you already have a product that is like the killer product, I would recommend allocating the budgets in proportion to the sales. That's what we try and do. So if you see a product, you're like, there's a lot of potential here. Sales are growing. Everything's great. It does really, really well in Q1. Put budget towards that. I wouldn't want to like evenly split things because you're going to end up spending too much money somewhere and then not enough in somewhere else. If you are approaching a new account and you have absolutely zero data, you have no idea which product works best, and it's like a brand new account, one thing that we've done is launch like a catch-all auto campaign. So that's where you essentially take every single product across the entire account, you throw it into an auto campaign, you put a really low bid of like 20 cents, 15 cents, something like that. Dynamic bids down only. Sometimes you can do up or down, but down only tends to work well as a start. And then you just let it go. And then you say, okay, you go back and you look at the ads or the product performance in that account. You say, which of these perform well? And then you just say, okay, those are the ones we're going to focus on. That can be really helpful because sometimes, especially if you have very limited budgets, testing across like a large account like that can get really expensive. It can be really hard to know if there's no data. You're like, you're kind of shooting in the dark, right? You have to test something. So that's been a really good low cost test to do. And then from there you can say, okay, so these are the products that are performing well. And then that's where you scale with the budgets. So that might be a little bit of a tip to give you. I will echo what Noemi said about a 5% totally cost these days, unless this is a very recognized brand. So if you have a brand that has like a lot of brand recognition, a lot of brand search, they're getting a lot of orders through, customers knowing their brand, going to Amazon and searching for that. And that's where you can get a lot of organic sales because of that brand recognition. That is the case where you say, okay, maybe it's possible to have a 5% ACOS or total ACOS. Unless you have significant brand recognition, I would almost go so far to say that it would be impossible to grow. I don't want to say anything's impossible. There's always going to be an outlier, but I would say it's probably impossible to grow with a 5% total ACOS in today's market with how competitive it is. I don't know if that's too crazy to say, but I feel pretty confident saying that, as much as that's going to be really hard. So I would say it's a matter of expectations of if that's what absolutely needs to happen, a 5% total ACOS and a 20% ACOS, there might be certain targets and things that you can eventually, through a lot of testing, figure out, double down on. But if this brand wants to grow sales, those two things are in direct opposition, and so you're gonna continuously struggle there. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I love that you also touch based on if it's a branded term or not, and if that is something that's bringing sales. Also, to be super like upfront and maybe just a bit cold here, I believe that a brand who has she's smiling, a brand who has like that much brand recognition is going to spend more than $3,000 for their product.
Most likely.
So that's why I'm saying.
Yeah. All right. We have a lot of extra questions. I'm going to pop open to this one because this is kind of along the same strategy. So what are some strategies when a niche has high cost per clicks and the products have a low price point? How does one tackle this?
Take the position.
Not easily.
Assume the position. This is such a hard question because it really depends on, and I'm also like curious to hear your thoughts, especially when it comes to consumable goods or like products that it's going to be repurchased. There, maybe it might be making sense why to keep up, even if the CPC is super, super high. But for other products, really like looking to long term, if you cannot sustainably grow a product, it's a sustainable negative profit. And actually, like very hard, like from the deepest bottom of my heart, I'm going to give this advice because actually for our pet brand, we had one of these products where we discontinued the product. The product had around 2,000 reviews. Everything was like 4+ reviews and so on and so forth. But we couldn't match any more competition because a lot of Chinese sellers, they were just like, and I'm not like Chinese sellers. I'm saying a lot of sellers who were willing to make $1 profit on the product were okay with lowering down the price, And actually we had to take a very, very hard decision, very emotional, like super emotional, because this is the first product and so on. And we just paused it on Amazon just because of this reason, CPCs were very high, And then it's like, does it still make sense to push a lot of advertising money? Because it's not as if you didn't push advertising, spend around $10,000 in advertising to promote the product, and everything like was as highest proficiency as possible can, because we are freaking running a PPC agency, so we knew what we are doing, So at this point, I would say it's really depending on, is this your only product? And if it's not the only product, do you have any other product that has a higher profit margin that you should advertise for, that you already have data for, or you need to generate new data for? Because based on that, really like thinking 5 years ahead. Do you want to run a business that is bringing positive cash flow or negative cash flow? And if it's bringing negative cash flow, for how long do you want to push it? Because if this is, again, it's a product launch, maybe for the first 1 to 3 to 6 months, depending on how competitive the category it is, it might worth it for you. But if it makes no sense, even after months and months and months, there's only one way for ad platforms to go, which is always up. So being upfront of that and like deciding what to do next. You can also play around with increasing the price of the unit and so on and so forth. I'm assuming that you already did all that. If you didn't, I would just like step back 1 to 3 steps, increase the conversion rate, and then see if CPC is still super high and it's very, very hard for you to get a sale at very high cost and like minus cash flow. I would think into like what's next. So plan B, plan C, have it prepared as well. That's what I would say here.
Yeah, that was a great, you're gonna like, I appreciate the broader perspective on like, hey, is it possible to do cash flow on this? I would say it's also a game of like, of ratios and pieces of the pie. So an example of that would be, well, there's most of these products, you will probably struggle to get them profitable on advertising. So the advertising most likely won't be profitable. So then the question is, can I get the product as a whole profitable? And so that's what Noemi was saying. She was like, all right, like it's, so in that case, when I say product as a whole, I'm talking about, say, like total A costs, right? Is it possible that maybe my A cost is a little high, but my total A cost is lower? And how you would do that is by a lot more organic rankings for the product. Now, is that possible? That would be something to look into. Sometimes, not always, but if the low cost product is like a repeat purchase item, so you have subscribe and save on it, if you can build up subscribe and save, then that's a way to like generate more sales. And then yes, those ad sales are at a loss, but it leads to more subscribe and saves, which leads to greater sales. And if you are seeing subscribe and saves go up, then you will see your total A, like your monthly total A cost go down. So that's how you can kind of like, seeing the trend in subscribe and saves, and then making sure you're keeping on top of the total A cost. But yeah, it's a hard it is not an easy task. It's really about figuring out where you can get better. Is there any targets that have a lower CPC on them, or are there any targets that I have a higher conversion rate on? So it's essentially like taking a look at the entire ad account and saying like, where can I get better performance? Is there a way to get better performance on like a specific piece of, a certain keyword? Maybe it's a certain ad type. Sometimes like say broad match works better. Like you're just kind of looking, okay, where can I eke out some more performance from this product?
Love it. Also, Ashley, if you have any feedback here or like any more details that can offer clarification, feel free to let us know so we can give you a better answer. By the way, Fazal was just also asking something, that he has a question similar to Ashley's, but he is in a new supplements launch where I'm actually like, if you want to pull up the question, would be helpful.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just like
let's do
taking
this
over
one, because
helping here.
I think we have time to answer one more question. So we'll probably have this, we'll expand a little bit more on this last question. And then I think we'll have to wrap it up, which sorry if we didn't get to your Amazon ad question today. We get through as many as we can in this show, but we'll be back, or I'll be back here same time next week. So feel free to bring your questions again next week. Sorry, take it away.
Amazing. No worries. So are you okay to take this question as last? Because I think that this is going to give you exactly the what's missing for Ashley's question. So here is specific that there it is a new supplements launch where it is $7 per click and $19 on selling price. I would say kudos job well done. We are actually helping someone in the supplement niche. Our CPC, it is $54. So kudos job well done on the $7 per click. You did it. So here it's really important because if it's $19, the selling price, just as Elizabeth was saying, the previous question, it's really going to be lifetime value. So are we going to increase the lifetime value of the customer if you're going to converting them? And two, is it achievable a $7 per click CPC that can be lowered, So that is also something that we have to look into it, because right now what we should be looking into, how do we increase conversion rate for our product? Because assuming that you just launched, you have 0 reviews, you're just like one more pretty nice face supplement that it's maybe laying down on page 237.5. But really it's going to come down here when it comes to supplement niche is how good is your main image? And that is extremely important, because if your main image is not going to stand out against your competitors, and here what I'm saying is if the main image, for example, you're selling supplements and this is like, for example, I'm just like, I love to use stuff that is on my desk. So for example, if this tumbler that you're seeing right now, for our listeners who are just like not seeing whatever I'm showing, I'm showcasing a tumbler that is basically, it has a silicone base and it's made of glass and it has a bamboo lid on it and a plastic straw. So for example, if this is your product and all the 100 products that are showing on page 1 are exactly the same and yours doesn't differentiate, the $7 click might be $7. But for example, the moment that someone is going to click within your product, you have maybe in the background something that is like, I don't know, something that is specific, might be for adults, might be for kids, might be, I don't know, maybe this specific product is for a happy kid who's just going to use their tumbler. Is this how it's called, by the way, Elizabeth, tumbler? How would you define this one?
Oh, that's what I would call it.
Because it's not necessarily a sippy cup, So, but like having something that is super relevant, that's going to trigger the click, because you can already have a huge advantage if you're going to trigger the click and if you're going to keep your customer there. Because keep in mind right now, again, we're looking at PPC data and the $7 might worth it for you if it's actually going to convert. The $7, it's not going to worth it for you if someone clicked and they are disinterested, or uninterested. How do you say it correctly? Uninterested or in it? Not,
yeah,
if
or
they
not
don't,
interested. Yeah.
If they're not interested in your product, So it's really like, how do you increase conversion rate? And based on that, you will see, okay, does it still make sense for me to bid for the $7 keyword, or should I be looking into keywords that are highly relevant for me, but they might have a lower search volume, but whenever someone is clicking on that one, they're actually going to buy my product, So I think those are the angles that you would look into. That is not only like PPC click related, but like what to do until you're getting that eyeballs. Because right now you want to get that eyeballs, it's costing you $7. You get the eyeballs. Now what's next, Because what we want is conversion. We are masters of bringing traffic to listing, but conversion still depends on the listing itself. How well are you selling the product? We are marketers as PPC agency. You are like salesmen when you're going to sell, your product with your images, with your price, with your everything else. Yeah, so that's kind of in the nut of how would I think of it.
Yeah, no, that I think that's a fabulous way to wrap all of this up. The one thing that I would say is, if you can be profitable or not really depends on one metric for you, which is going to be your ad sale percentage, which is your ad sales divided by your total sales. The larger this number, the more reliant you are on advertising to generate sales. And so the more unprofitable, if your ad's already unprofitable, then the more unprofitable your account will be. If you have a low ad sale percentage, meaning you have a low amount of ad sales to organic, then that means that those organic sales, which you did not have to pay for, which are complete 100% profitable, those can offset the cost that you have to pay, because Amazon it really is a pay-to-play platform these days. If you don't have advertising, you need to get eyeballs on your product from somewhere. which if it's not Amazon ads, it's typically like off-platform traffic, where sometimes people will come in and be like, oh my gosh, this brand they launched, they're not really running ads. How in the world are they getting sales? They're getting traffic from somewhere. Sometimes it's a newsletter. Sometimes they have affiliates. Sometimes they have like a big Instagram following you had no idea about, and that's where they're funneling. Like, you have to get eyeballs from somewhere. If you don't have any other audience, then that's where Amazon advertising is really the most like conversion rate focused of all advertising platforms, including external, unless you already have like an owned audience or like that brand recognition like we were talking about. So what you want to make sure is that your advertising is working to generate that organic lift, which then again, you get the full profit on any of those sales. So as long as you can like leverage Amazon ads to like skew that ratio, which does take time, which is why you're not going to be profitable in the beginning of anything. That's one thing I'm really excited to dig into more this year is I've come up with sort of a framework and equation that actually balances out ACoS and ad sale percentage. And I think we're going to use that to try and like forecast like ACoS goals based on like profit goals and things. So it's really about understanding how those two things balance each other out, because they're kind of push and pull dynamics, right? If you lower down ACoS, it typically means that you're not pushing for growth as much, which means you're going to get a high ad sale percentage. But if you go straight for like organic growth, that typically means your ACoS is really high and unprofitable. And so it's really about making sure you're balancing those two things correctly, and then constantly pushing for, you know, either growth or profits or whatever the brand's looking to do.
I love that. Looking forward for the tool. Elizabeth, let us know.
And with that, I appreciate everyone. I know we didn't get to everyone's questions today, but I appreciate everyone showing up and asking. We hope it was valuable for you guys. So with that, Noemi, if somebody is listening in, they're like, that sounds awesome, would love to get in touch with you, what is the best place for someone to reach out?
Befriend me on LinkedIn. I'm growing my LinkedIn account. So right now it's just really, if you listen to this episode, ensure that you're going to write 1-2 lines about this episode specifically, because if you're just going to befriend me, probably I'm not going to accept at this rate like I would have a lot of friends. But do let me know if you enjoyed the episode. Do let me know if you have any questions about the episode. So on LinkedIn, just connect with me. Or you can also check out, thank you so much. And Elizabeth just pulled up on my LinkedIn as well. Or if you would like to know more about who we are, what we are doing, and who we are helping, just check out the website. Built by sellers for sellers. You know, that is our motto. You will see there our core value and everything what we stand for. The way I like to put it is, I like to be the first stage before you would go to Elizabeth. So Elizabeth is with bigger brands. We are still with smaller to mid-sized brands. And yeah, that's kind of it. It was an absolute pleasure to be on the show, and I'm honestly looking forward to do more of this if time permits.
Absolutely. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap it up, which I really, really appreciate you for joining. It's been a fabulous episode. Really looking forward to connecting more in 2025. And yeah, if you still have an Amazon ad question, make sure you join us same place, same time next week. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Thanks. And that wraps up this episode of the Ask Junglr Amazon Advertising Podcast. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful in your Amazon PPC journey. Remember, if you have a burning Amazon ad question that you'd like answers to, head over to junglr.com/live to join our next live Q&A session. Until next time, keep optimizing those ads and stay hungry.